This is a demo of a new temporary override mode in Loop that subsumes the existing workout mode. So when I tap the override mode button, I'm brought to a list of presets that I've defined for various types of exercise. So then, for example, if I were going for a run, I would just tap the running preset and I'm done. And you can see I get a new status row that describes the active override. And if we tap on that, we can see what that actually means. So the running override that I've defined has a target range, a custom target range, as well as changed insulin needs. So if, for example, I need 30% less insulin while I'm running, I can see how those changes are reflected here in the settings. So that means a reduced basal rate and increased sensitivity in carb ratios. So for someone that's not aware necessarily of the relationships between these settings, this could be a little bit confusing at first glance. But I decided that in the spirit of transparency in really telling the user what it means to say that your overall insulin needs are 70% of what they were before, it's worth having this additional display here. You can see we also have settings that describe the start time and the duration, or whether or not it's indefinite. And this right here is actually editing the active override. So for example, if I were going for a longer run, I could change that to be an hour and a half and save that override, and it would apply to this already active running override. Now, as far as defining these presets, there's a new spot in settings under configuration where I can set up these presets, and you can see the three that I've already defined here. I can edit to rearrange them as they appear in the UI, delete, or add a new preset. So you can see that in addition to those settings that we just saw for the active override, there are spots to describe the symbol and the name. So for the symbol, when we tap, we get a custom keyboard akin to the one that you see when choosing food emojis for carb absorption times. You can see we get all of the variety of different activity emojis, as well as some describing conditions. So for example, if I were sick, I could create a custom override for my changed insulin needs while ill. So let's say we call this one illness. Say we want the same target range, but we need more insulin. And so the purpose of this override is just to tell Loop that our insulin needs have changed while sick. Don't know how long we're going to be sick for, so we'll make it so that the override is enabled indefinitely. And then we can save that, and it's added to our list of presets. And then if I cancel this override, either by tapping the icon here or through the cancel button in the active override, I can now enable my illness override just with one tap, and it'll be enabled indefinitely until I change it. Now there's one other nice feature here where, let's say I'm going for a bike ride, but I know that this will be, say, a shorter ride, for example, than I normally would. If I just tap and hold on the cycling override, I'm brought to a pre-filled out version of that preset where I can just change one setting, say reduce from 3 hours to 2, save it, and that's now active. And if, for example, that override were, let's say I'm not actually going cycling for, say, another half hour, I could change the start time, and you would still see that the cycling override would be active, but not active until it starts, and that's reflected in the graph. You can see that the workout mode icon is no longer toggled blue because the override itself is not active. But if we were to tap on this, it'll show up as a scheduled override, which we can then edit from here as you would with the status row, or we could just change it to be a new override, and it would just start from there. One other piece here is that this does support the Apple Watch, so we can disable the override from the watch if the UI behaves today. The simulator is lagging a little bit on me. There we go. So if we can disable the override, or we can enable one of our presets. So when we tap that button, we're presented with a list of emojis that describe the presets that we've defined, and we can just enable it right from the Apple Watch, and that comes through to the app. So that's a description of this new override mode. The big features are having user-defined custom presets for various activity types and conditions, as well as customizing insulin needs in addition to the target range. Happy to take in any feedback on this. I'm really excited about it. I'd like to get this out there.